Me personally, I started in the 80s, so E30 M3s were kind of my personal favorites back in the day. It hooked me, man. It was those M3s, that was kind of a launching ground for BMW with the M cars.
All right, you guys, welcome back. We're taking a bit of a break today. There's no driving in this video. The adrenaline's a little bit lower because behind me is the most insane collection of BMWs I've ever seen, and it's right here in our backyard in Richmond, BC. This is Classic Garage at Auto West BMW. All right, as you guys know, a lot of BMW M stemmed from, of course, homologation cars, and over a number of decades, it's evolved into what it is today, a radically different lineup of vehicles. Some would say a dystopian world where turbochargers have happily been ushered in to create the current lineup. Now, I'm not gonna have enough time to cover everything today. There's an insane amount of cars spanning an incredible period of time, but what I am gonna do is show you some of the most important vehicles here and some of my personal favorites, so let's go take a look around. Let's begin, okay? So we're gonna walk around, show you 6 vehicles today. This is 6. And then later in the video, we're gonna talk to Len, who's the sales manager here at Auto West, and he's gonna explain to us how exactly they curate the collection here, because behind Frank right now, there are a number of cars that do not have BMW badges on them. Original 930 Turbo, there's a Speedster, and we've got a few other incredible cars, but they're not BMW. So we'll talk to Len and get the whole story. But let's start with 3 modern BMWs. If you're a 90s kid like me or kind of around this era, these are the cars that maybe speak to you the most. This is an E46 M3 competition. So it's not quite the M3 CSL, but it takes the quicker steering rack, bigger brakes, and the suspension from that car, which probably makes a huge difference in how it feels. And this actually was offered with the manual versus the CS, which was only offered with the SMG, which is a terrible transmission. I've driven an E46 M3 with the SMG, and it is one of the worst experiences. Not the engine, the transmission. But yeah, really cool car. Obviously, one of the most timeless BMW shapes. And if you look on the steering wheel here, I'll get a shot of that. There's a button that BMW included, one of the first cars to have it. It's basically your M mode, your modern M mode, and it would not disable traction control, but allow you to have a little bit of slip, and that's exclusively on the steering wheel, the only button on the steering wheel. I mean, it's incredible condition. It's all black leather and everything in here. Yeah, just a beautiful car. It's tough to decide like which out of these 3 I would take, but I think I'm just gonna land on the E46 M3. Frank, you said this was your favorite?
That is my favorite.
Out of these 3?
A bit girthy. I like the mirrors. Mirrors always had that special place in my heart.
I mean, yeah, you look boring, oh, boom, and then you got the E92 mirrors. It's got the hood scoop, of course, E92 M3. Great looking car. This is where BMW like kind of got away from the old school mentality and it started showing a little bit of the new school stuff. This was the first dual clutch BMW. So that was a sign that, hey, like times are changing, the manual, is it going away, is it not? We didn't really know at the time, but of course this was still offered with a manual, and one of the last, actually it is, yeah, the last naturally aspirated BMW M3. Great car, such a good sounding engine. A lot of people will swap this V8 into, you know, smaller chassis and stuff to wake them up. Just a sharp looking car.
Gorgeous. Fits the youth and the older generation.
It does. And it also comes in 4-door. Of course, the E46 M3 did not come in 4-door. The E36 did, not the E46. And then we can't say the same about the looks of the E60. What do you think about how the E60 looks?
Big car, huge car, powerful. Single clutch or dual clutch?
I think it's an SMG.
Yeah.
I think it's single. You drove one.
I drove one and it was really kicky between the shift, which put me right into my seat.
Did you like winding it out though?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay,
A
yeah.
naturally aspirated V10.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. A bit too big for my liking.
I agree, completely agree, and that's why we've kind of lined them up. E46 on the left, E92 gets a little bit chunkier, but it wasn't all that much heavier than the E46, and then of course M5, completely different realm of vehicle, but it is massive. This one is an automatic. In Canada, they were sold with the manual. I've driven a manual one, and the M6. Great cars, but it is a Grand Tourer. It's a big car, and honestly, I hate to say it, but I think the automatic suits the car better. If it's an Autobahn cruise, you just want to have like an incredible high-speed experience, and you know, straight pipe one of these, and it's the last car you'll ever need to listen to. I think it's not the prettiest. I think it's aged fairly well, though. I don't think it's a bad-looking car. Just when you put it next to the E46 and the E92. That's it.
What about you, Marcus? Which one would you go for?
Ooh.
You have 24 hours, longest road trip of your life.
Longest road trip. Are there like windy roads though?
Straights and windy roads.
Okay.
So,
I think I would take the E92. I love the E46. It's more fun to chuck around, like it's more chuckable. But the sound of the E92, it just game over. It's game over for me. I haven't driven a manual, I've only driven a dual clutch, but that's where I would go.
you.
All right, so now on to some of the older stuff. The Clown Shoe, Z3M Coupe. Now, I have driven one of these, but it was supercharged. It had like 800 horsepower, ridiculous car. These have shot up in value over the last, I want to say about 4 or 5 years. I saw one, I don't know, 4 years ago that was about $20,000, $18,000, somewhere around there. The later ones came with the S54 from the E46 M3, whereas the earlier ones came with the S50 from the E36 M3. So it kind of like blurs the line between the older E36 generation and the E46 generation. This one in front of me, first off, beautiful color, absolutely stunning color. And it is the S54. So this one is gonna command a premium for sure. And Frank, you pointed this out, blue interior. How wild is this? Blue and black, two-tone in here. Of course, it is a manual transmission. Very polarizing car. You guys let me know what you think of the Clown Shoe. I personally love the rear end. The hips of the car are phenomenal. The rear end's great. The front end, the Z3, they had to cut down costs, so the whole front of the car is all Z3, obviously. A lot of parts are interchangeable, but the rear end here, amazing looking car. What do you think, Frank?
I love it. The fact that I can put a Thule box on it, go cruise, little hatchback, can't go wrong.
I love where your mind goes. You're thinking of this. You walked in and you're like, this could be my winter car.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. S54, rear wheel drive.
Yep.
295s or 315s in the back, not too sure, but
they're thick. What are they? 245s.
Oh.
Well, they look a lot wider.
they did.
Wow, they got a lot of dish, but okay,
run
so
it.
this is like, kind of modern era, E36, E46 era. Really reliable, I'd imagine. This is a BMW M6, the original. This is a 1989, beautiful car. One of the most recognizable 80s cars, period. Now, this was before my time, but it is really cool to look at the shape of this car and see it resembled nowhere in the current BMW lineup. I mean, you could argue the M8 kind of adopts the GT car shape, but of course the iconic kidney grills here. I mean, there is no car that BMW's made since then that looks quite like this. 3.5 liter, naturally aspirated, straight six, under the hood, ITBs, and fuel injection. So this engine was taken effectively from the BMW M1, although this is wet sump, and it's just a little bit more livable. It's got electronic fuel injection. Yeah. This 3-spoke steering wheel, nobody makes a steering wheel like this anymore. No buttons, nothing, just the simple BMW M lines. You can see the M colors coming in there.
Simplicity. At its finest.
Super simple. And the dash, look at how the dash like wraps. It began to kind of wrap around and focus on the driver a little bit. Beautiful car.
My favorite part is those batteries.
The BBS wheels.
Wow.
You can't go wrong.
Beautiful.
And before we move on to the last car we're gonna highlight, I do just briefly want to look at what's behind me here, which some of you nerds will love to see. This is obviously an E36 M3 lightweight. It's a real one. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Beautiful car. This is the last one. Probably the most important car we've looked at so far. Arguably, you could say the M6, but this is the original M5, E28 BMW M5. It's got the same naturally aspirated 3.5 liter straight six that the M6 has. They both took it effectively from the M1. The M1, of course, being a homologation car. So yeah, the M5 is not, of course, a homologation car, but it did inherit a version of the engine. This thing looks stunning. I haven't really poked around one at all until today. It is an iconic car. But what I want to do, well, first we'll look around the rear end and then we'll pop the hood. So simple. This is kind of cool, actually. Look at how offset the exhaust is. That's weird, man. Wonder why they did that. Very strange. An interesting thing about this car is, well, first off, this is very Porsche-like. Definitely a sign of the times. It's rubber.
It's like a seal?
Yeah, it's like a malleable kind of thing. A lot of the 80s cars were doing that at the time, but it's a sign of the times too. Wow, this is a beautiful piece right here. I don't know what the function of this is, but it is very pretty. It's interesting looking at this car though. Look how tall the windows are compared to the other.
Absolutely.
Like a modern car, right? You have barely any room. This, like, visibility is incredible. Let's pop the hood. We gotta pop the hood.
Almost looks like a Volvo. Like the windows.
Yeah. Or a Saab, like an old Saab or
Absolutely.
something. Beautiful. So this one, oh, that slam is just...
G-Wagon like.
It is. They don't
G-Wagon.
make them like they used to.
I love that.
That is so sturdy. These cars are like, the build quality is exceptional. And this one's held up incredible. Actually, it has incredibly high mileage. But for what it is, they've done an incredible job keeping it in good shape. It's got hood struts. That's wild. 1989 hood struts, ITBs. I've never driven one. I would love to drive it. They don't make a lot of power, but I'm sure it's so much fun to drive. That's it, you guys. That's most of the collection. Actually, it's not even half. It's not even half of what they have. When I came here originally for their open house, just after they opened in the summer of 2022, I saw like an Alpina B7. They also have a BMW Z1 Roadster right now that's at the other location. There's a couple of E30 M3s around here, 2002s, a bunch of just insane cars that we're not able to look at today, Z8s included. But hopefully we can come back and show you guys some of those cars as well. Hey Len, how's it going?
Marcus, nice to meet you.
Thanks for having us here.
Hey, no problem at all. Welcome to Auto West Classic Garage.
Thank you so much. What is your role here at Classic Garage?
I'm actually the sales manager for Auto West Classic Garage. A lot of it was the vision of our owner, Joachim Newman. After COVID, he wanted to do something different, and collecting classic cars was always his passion. It started with one of his own personal vehicles. We decided to open up this department and collect some cars.
Was he
Yeah.
specifically looking for the real old stuff, or was it also the modern classics like the 1M?
Well, it's more of the heritage cars, more of the older vehicles. That's more of our passion. It surprised me. I thought, I've been with BMW for so many years, and I thought I knew about all the classic cars that were out there, but
Yeah.
I was even blown away by how many other unique classic performance BMWs are available, starting from the 50s and the 60s. So we can date back you know, as far back as that, all the way up to current 2025 M5 CSs.
And they're so radically different. What would be some of your favorites that you've seen come through here? Because there seems to be a lot coming and going. And
oh no, well, absolutely. Well, I'll start with our owner first. When we first started, we had a 1968 CS that he acquired, and that kind of launched us into the classic car world of BMW. Me personally, I started in the 80s, late 80s, so E30 M3s were kind of my personal favorites back in the day, and as you know, that was kind of the launching ground for BMW with the M cars.
Absolutely.
So it hooked me, man. It was those M3s, the E30 M3s was the first car I ever sold, and yeah.
Have you driven one?
Many times, yes.
Wow, okay. That's a car I still have
not on the track, but one of my dreams is to go to Germany and drive one on the Autobahn, right?
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Mainly we focus on classic BMWs as our strength, our knowledge and expertise, but obviously German engineering and German performance cars with Porsches, Mercedes, all fall under the same umbrella. So it's hard just to specialize when there's so many great vehicles out there.
Absolutely.
So it's all part of the fun passion of having a classic inventory and a collection.
How many of these cars were just, hey, we found the cleanest, either lowest mileage, cleanest example we could find, and how much, if any, of this is a process of restoration?
Well, yeah, good question. I mean, we found cars with less than 10,000 kilometers or miles on them, and thus needing not much of a restoration, and vehicles that unfortunately the weather and rust have not been too kind to them, so they'll need major restoration. Unfortunately, we're not completely set up for full restoration at this time, but we have a full service team that can focus mainly on mechanical work. But we have good relationships with vendors for body work and restoration companies that will go to the full body frame off restoration.
Right,
so
we
can accommodate all of that, but we mainly focus on the mechanical side of things right now.
Make sure it's running, driving, whoever purchases this car knows that it's going to be able to work if they wanted to as intended.
Yes, exactly. And then we can share our years of experience and expertise with our customer base that own and have their own collection, and we can also reciprocate by servicing their vehicles, which is part of our service after sales team. And to answer your your other question, it's great because we get to meet. I meet collectors every day, and that's part of the fun is talking to other local BMW collectors. We have the same mindset of preserving and restoring and maintaining the heritage of BMW. When I meet someone that had an E30 M3 back in the day, we've all been through this even ourselves, where, boy, if I had that car I had when I was 16 years old, it'd be worth $1 million today. Or
100%.
So we've always had woulda, coulda, shoulda. If I kept that, you know. So I get a lot of common stories of, boy, I had that Porsche, I had that BMW. Life has changed through career, family, and now they've come full circle. And the fun part of my job is not only do we service and sell the classic BMWs, but this is also part of a museum collection almost.
When I walk in here, that's what it feels like. It feels like a collection. The floors are immaculate. I mean, the walls look great. It's a visual piece as well as much as it is a showroom where people can potentially buy some of their favorite cars.
Yeah, and to that point, we also want to introduce our classic inventory and classic BMWs to the next generation.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, you're a little bit younger, so to hear that you're wanting to learn about classic BMWs is refreshing, and that's also part of what we're trying to achieve. So there you go, Marcus. This is a 1957 Isetta.
This is how you get around the office.
This is BMW's venture into the automotive world.
So, and as far as I know, this was an Italian designed vehicle that then BMW kind of bought the rights to, I guess.
Exactly, yes. I forget the name of the gentleman the Italian designer, but I do know it only produces 12 horsepower back in the day, so it's really fuel efficient.
Wow.
And but post-war, BMW entered the automotive side of things and started to build cars. So this is obviously very rare, 1957, fully restored Isetta 300.
Wow, incredibly small and not the beginning of BMW M.
No.
There are no M roots in here.
This was more practical and fuel
Yes.
efficient versus the performance side of things.
All right, well, thanks, Len.
No problem
Thank
at all,
you so much.
Marcus.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
Thanks
my
for
pleasure.
showing us around. And,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be back soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. You're always welcome.
Thank you so much, Len. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Frank, for
pleasure.
enduring the weight of the gimbal for this long. And yeah, hopefully we can come back soon and show you guys some of these other cars. See you next time.